From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 9 o'clock news.
Good evening and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Russ Riesinger. Tighter restrictions on businesses and group gatherings are looming for Yellowstone County. Yellowstone County topping the totals again with 155 new COVID cases today, pushing the county infection rate even closer toward a community-wide shutdown that could start as soon as next week. Well, those numbers in Yellowstone County showing no sign of slowing down, proof that the virus is spreading out in our community. With today's 155 new case increase, the COVID-19 infection rate in Yellowstone County has jumped from 41 to 49 per 100,000 people. If the 7-day average is above 40 by October 31st, a new round of restrictions will be placed on local residents and businesses. However, if that average reaches 50 per 100,000, those changes would go into effect even sooner. And it appears that is where we are headed. Here's a breakdown of those numbers. Yellowstone County's population is just over 161,000. To stay under 40 new cases per 100,000, Yellowstone County must have no more than 450 new cases for the entire week. As of yesterday, October 8th, there had been 439 new COVID-19 cases already. If the threshold exceeds 565 when the Saturday cases are reported on Sunday, Health Officer John Felton will issue a new order on Monday. When asked this week how long that order would remain in effect, Felton told Q2 a minimum of 1 month. Well, the death toll across Yellowstone County has reached 73 tonight. 3 of the 5 latest victims are local residents, including a woman in her 40s. Deaths are also reported in Roosevelt and Missoula counties. These latest numbers bringing the statewide death toll to 211. MTN reports an increase of more than 700 new confirmed cases today. So across the state, there are nearly 6,000 active cases tonight. Well, this week, the state of Montana released a snapshot of COVID-19 hospital occupancy and capacity across the state. Both Billings hospitals facing the brunt of those patients. The report itself, however, appears to have some inconsistent and incomplete data for certain hospitals. Tonight, MTN's John Riley has more on why that is.
The state of Montana released their first COVID-19 hospital occupancy and capacity in Montana report on Thursday. Officials say it's intended to be a snapshot, with local situations changing frequently. The Montana Hospital Association says even so, it's good for people to see the broader impacts in their area.
I think for the public to understand is that as the community faces more spread, by looking at these numbers, you can immediately evaluate what is the impact on your community beyond those numbers that you see daily being reported from the state.
Looking just at the report, there is some incomplete data. Namely, St. Patrick Hospital in Missoula, one of the largest hospitals in the state, only had COVID-19 cases reported. Data on all the number of beds and ICU capacity are absent. The state says the missing data points are because St. Patrick didn't provide all requested information for the first report, but expect the information to be more complete in future reports. MTN has also discovered some inaccuracies concerning St. Peter's Health in Helena. The report said that they had 7 active COVID cases during the snapshot. However, St. Peter's says they've never had any more than 5 active COVID cases at any given time. Bed capacity in the report also didn't match. The state says again they're relying on data that was submitted to them, but have encouraged organizations to correct data in the system if they notice an error. MHA told MTN there's going to be anomalies, but they're working with the state and their members to help sort them out. But even without the report, with continued rise of COVID cases, hospitals need people to follow social distancing guidelines and wear a mask.
This is not a question of whether or not you're violating someone's civil liberties. This is a question of what is our role in humanity? What is our role in terms of how we are going to care for one another? And we know we have vulnerable populations. Montana has the 6th oldest population as a percentage of our total population.
Reporting in Helena, John Riley, MTN News.
Well, here in Billings, business was damaged and one person was sent to the hospital after a fire broke out on Central Avenue. One man was hurt in that fire at a motorcycle shop earlier tonight. Happened at Extreme Machines around 6:15. Man was working on a vehicle when that fire started. Firefighters quickly put out the fire. American Medical Response took the man to the hospital. His injuries are unknown, but a Billings Fire Battalion Chief Alan Harper said he did appear to be in good, stable condition. The fire marshal's investigating. And a 3-year-old child fell into a small thermal feature in Yellowstone National Park today. That child has second-degree burns to the lower body and back and was life-flighted to the burn center in Idaho. Yellowstone officials say the child took off running from a trail, slipped and fell into the water. This is the second significant injury in a thermal area this year. In May, a visitor who illegally entered the park fell into a thermal feature at Old Faithful while backing up and taking pictures. Well, come next year, a lot of Montanans will get a bump in pay. January 1st, the new minimum wage will go up 10 cents per hour to $8.75. The federal minimum wage rate is $7.25 per hour. In Montana, the minimum wage must be adjusted annually for inflation after citizens passed a ballot initiative back in 2006.
Every year we look at the change in the consumer price index from August of the previous year to current August. And we use that to calculate inflation over the last year and apply that to the minimum wage to see a an equal percentage increase in minimum wage.
The state reports an estimated 8,000 to 10,000 Montana workers received hourly wages less than $8.75 per hour in 2020, and notes that many minimum wage workers, like those in the food service industry, are frontline workers who are at the greatest risk of COVID-19 exposure. Now, President Trump is preparing to hold his first in-person event since contracting the coronavirus at the White House this weekend. Meanwhile, Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden is campaigning in Nevada. Deborah Alfarone is at the White House with more.
A senior administration official confirms President Trump will hold his first in-person event since his COVID diagnosis at the White House tomorrow. He's expected to give remarks on law and order from the White House balcony. The Trump campaign has also announced the president will return to the campaign stage in Florida on Monday. It's been less than a week since President Trump was discharged from the hospital.
I was in not great shape, and we have a medicine that healed me.
Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden hit the campaign trail in the battleground state of Nevada with multiple stops in Las Vegas.
If we show up, we win.
Earlier this week, the president said he would hold off on negotiating another COVID stimulus bill until after the election. Now, White House officials say he has approved a revised package offer.
I would like to see a bigger stimulus package, frankly, than either the Democrats or the Republicans are offering.
Friday morning, the House Speaker announced a bill to create a commission on presidential capacity. The panel will be charged with deciding whether a president is fit to perform his or her duties under the 25th Amendment.
This is not about President Trump. He will face the judgment of the voters. But he shows the need for us to create a process for future presidents.
White House officials have called the proposal, quote, absurd, and the bill is not likely to be considered by the Republican-led Senate.
Also, next Thursday's second presidential debate has been canceled, but there is still a final one on the schedule for October 22nd. We also want to remind you that Senator Daines and Governor Bullock will meet tomorrow night in their final debate of the campaign season. You can watch that on Q2 starting at 6 p.m. Well, Michigan's Attorney General says that shocking plot to kidnap and possibly kill Governor Gretchen Whitmer is not the only case of domestic terrorism being investigated. More arrests are expected in similar cases. So far, more than a dozen suspects are now in custody, some who had been seen at armed protests at Michigan's Capitol. CBS News also obtained an FBI bulletin that went out last week warning that anti-government extremists are potentially focused on sparking violence in the next 3 months up to the 2021 inauguration, and that presidential elections could possibly be a flashpoint. Well, Hurricane Delta came ashore near the town of Creole, Louisiana as a Category 2 storm. It's following nearly the same path that Hurricane Laura took just 6 weeks ago, threatening some 11 million Americans. Courtney Zabowski has the latest from Lafayette, Louisiana.
Delta thrashed the Gulf Coast at Creole, Louisiana around 6 p.m., packing 100-mile-an-hour winds and unleashing torrents of drenching rain.
Fish in the road. The storm surge is coming in and the fish are swimming up the road.
Tens of thousands evacuated ahead of the storm. For those who stayed behind, the mayor of Lake Charles warned that first responders will not be making emergency calls during the storm.
Though they may want to, and though it's in their DNA to respond, there's going to be a period where it's just not safe to get out on the roads.
Hurricane Delta is the fourth named storm to hit Louisiana this year. The extent of the damage it's leaving behind won't be known until morning.
We know that this is going to exacerbate what is already a bad situation.
Tens of thousands of Gulf Coast residents are still trying to recover from Hurricane Laura.
It's a very stressful situation for everybody.
Laura caused about $80,000 in damage to Chad Aber's home near Lake Charles.
It's hitting like probably 15 miles from where it hit originally, so we're really worried about how our house is doing right now.
2,500 members of the Louisiana National Guard are ready to fan out to hard-hit areas.
I want folks to be hopeful because we know that we're going to do everything that we can to get them right side up again.
Delta is the 10th named storm to make landfall in the U.S. this year, breaking the 1916 record. Courtney Zabowski, CBS News, Lafayette, Louisiana.
Forecasters expect Delta to unleash tornadoes and drop up to 10 inches of rain before it moves out of the area. It is expected to weaken to a tropical storm overnight as it pushes to the northeast. Still to come on the MTN 9 o'clock news, a look into the future of train travel here in America as Amtrak introduces the fastest train to hit the tracks ever in the United States. And as we take a live look outside on this Friday night, Bob will be back with your full forecast coming up next.